you're just tuning in, we have a motto. If you can't hold it, you don't own it. What are we talking about? Physical precious metals, gold, silver, maybe, given the week we've had in the stock market, the best insurance policy that you could put your wealth into at this particular time. I want to welcome you to The Real Money Show. If you're tuning in for the first time, thank you for doing so. This is a show about our assets that we like to discuss and the reasons why we believe the ownership of these assets may in fact provide you with protection of wealth, with a place to grow your wealth, and perhaps for those that are in the midst of what has been a scathing week in the stock markets, some peace of mind. So we're going to talk about that today on The Real Money Show. It is brought to you by our firm, Guildhall Wealth Management. I'm your host, Darren Long, and with me on today's show is going to be Jeremy Wiseman. We're going to talk about all things related to gold and silver. And throughout the show, I'll give you the number. It's 1-877-8-SILVER. It's 1-877-8-SILVER, or the website, guildhallwealth.com. And like I said, we believe in the physical gold and silver markets, and if you can't hold it, you don't own it. So when we talk about gold and silver, please understand we're not your financial planners, we're not your advisors. We are experts in the area of gold and silver, and we are going to talk about that today because I think, Jeremy, a lot of people have to be put at ease about what has transpired this week in the stock markets and get a better understanding of how they can protect their wealth. So let's get into that right now. So if we look at the week as a whole, obviously mental breakdowns all over the place. People are panicking. There's some panic, of course, to be expected. The frontline broadcasters on every media outlet in the world are touting it's a long-term market, stay and hold. This is to be expected. We're only going back a little bit. What kind of week have we had here? Well, it's been a busy week. It's been a fantastic week, in fact.
It's been a crazy week here because not only are we right at the tail end of RSP contributions, so we've been opening rapid-fire accounts here for people who want to put gold and silver in their RSPs. So that's been a huge aspect of what we've been doing this week. And then on the other hand, we've been taking a whole bunch of orders because the price, people are panicking about the market. The interesting development, as you know, Darren, happened within the last basically 24 hours, which is, gold was hanging in there. We'd had a huge run up since through January and February, gold getting as high as 1680, I believe, and silver cracking over 18 again. So
almost 19.
Those were, that was really exciting to watch. And then I think what's happened over the course of this week, we haven't had much time to lift our head up to see, really dig into what's happening on the stock markets, but we can see the sheer panic that's happening, right?
Well, if you look back at the markets as a whole, a couple of weeks ago, we did a show called To Care or Not to Care, in which we talked about stock evaluations being at all-time highs. And it's a very important show to look back upon because one of the things we discussed was, maybe this is the time to take a look before this storm comes and hits. And we've been saying it for a long time, but that particular show focused in on that theme, to care or not to care. And we believed this was the time to care, really care. And
we've also discussed on this show about the fact that there is going to be some sort of pullback, and what is going to start that is anybody's guess, but it is going to happen in some way. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what the market was, what it happened to be from the market was the coronavirus, right?
The trigger
that started it. And what we talked about last week on the show, which we're going to reiterate right now, is just how fragile that market was at the peak, right? How strong is it at the peak? And if you're paying attention to people like Gregory Mannarino or tens scores, I should say, of analysts who have contributed to this show, they all say there is tons of air between the top and the real value of the stock market. So I feel for people who are a deer in headlights in the stocks. We know how it feels. We've been on the other side of it, Darren, where we've seen massive smashes in the precious metals market.
Sure we have.
And we know that feeling of, maybe it stopped. Maybe it stopped. Oh, here we go again. It goes down for another. We've been through that. Silver went from $48 down to basically $14. So we know what those feel like, and we know how to ride them out. What we're seeing in the gold market right now, completely different story.
Of course. And if we look at the gold market as a whole, although it was trading as we're taping this show just below $1,600 an ounce, paper price, of course, the high wasn't, much higher. Like, it's not like we've lost 30% of the market, or it's cut in half in value, or there's any reason to panic. But it does beg the question, Jeremy, and I want to leave in the first segment. We'll take a break and come back, talk about this. It does beg the question, does this compare to anything we've already been through? And are you buying? Why not put it in perspective and talk about what we are going to do, as opposed to what we suggest you do as a listener. So if you want to get some gold and silver, first off, especially with this little buying opportunity that we're having right now, great time to do it. Insurance, it's wealth for your portfolio. It's the opportunity to grow your wealth. We'll talk about what it did the last time this happened. And we've got a whole slew of things to discuss and get to today regarding gold and silver in the markets in a broad sense. So please stay tuned. You are listening to The Real Money Show with Guildhall Wealth Management on Global News Radio, 640 Toronto. Okay, we're back with The Real Money Show, Guildhall Wealth Management. The number, 18778-SILVER, the website, guildhallwealth.com. Why do we give that? Well, right now, it's a very important moment because not only are we at the deadline, so congratulations to those that did open up registered accounts and met the RSP deadline, to those still looking to get transfers done, or if it's a TFSA account, any other type of registered account, we're here. We're here to listen. We're here to hold your hand. We will open that up for you, with you, involved every step of the way. And it's real physical gold and silver. And Jeremy, I want to ask you a question. Because this week has been a very, very hard week for some, a difficult week for some, but for us, a very exciting week. So much passion here about people. Explain to us a little bit about the buying and selling that's been happening this week. People are asking, or thinking maybe as a listener, was there a lot of selling this week? Did people call up and say, hey, I want to sell my gold and silver too? I had
one client sell a whole 19 grams of gold. Just going on a month vacation, wanted U.S. cash. And for him, it was just a little bit of extra spending money. And so he decided, I'll just sell a few grams of gold. That's it. Everyone else... I had
one seller myself.
Darren, I have a line of invoices on my desk right now of buys, all from yesterday and today, especially with the market coming down a bit on gold and silver. Here's the thing. The what is happening right now in the stock market, we've talked about on this show so many times, and the reasons for why it would eventually come down. Not the trigger. Forget the trigger, but that this was baked into the cake long ago.
Oh, yeah.
Accommodative easing from the Fed, a massive amounts of debts out there. These were the drivers of that market. And even Fed officials themselves would talk about stuff like that. So this is not a big surprise as to what's happening, but I'll tell you what will happen next. The Fed is going to lower interest rates very soon. There will probably be an effort amongst a bunch of different central banks all together to lower interest rates and try to pump more cash into the system. The problem is they are ill prepared to deal with this at this point because the stock market was so overvalued to begin with. So as the economy was grinding to a halt, things we already discussed on the show, like the Baltic Dry Index, now you have the stock market coming down, and apparently that's the only indicator of the economy. So I guess the economy is going down with it. So it is time to have that safe haven, and you have the best opportunity right now because gold and silver have actually gone on sale, and we're going to tell you why in just a few moments.
18778-SILVER, guildhallwealth.com, the website. Jeremy, don't keep us waiting. What to you does on sale mean?
It means I get personally an opportunity to cost average down a little bit in my portfolio. And for me, I'm purchasing mainly in my RSP right now because over the years we didn't have the RSP available to us, Darren, so we were buying product outside the RSP. So now I have a great opportunity to build that portfolio. And again, for me, I'm buying mostly silver at this point because I do have a lot of gold in my portfolio. So I love this. I love the opportunity to buy silver sub 17 because Because for us, this is, how many times have we been over $18 in the last year and a half, right? But the lows are getting higher, and that's the key.
Higher highs, higher lows. That's the process we always look for in these turns.
So I'm definitely a buyer here. This isn't the type of schlock that you're going to hear on the mainstream media where they're just telling you to stay in the stock market and it's a good time to buy and all that. Look, if you want to buy a falling knife, go ahead. We don't feel that way in the gold and silver market because these markets are not trading at all-time highs, Darren. They're incredibly undervalued. And so to lose $100 on gold or a couple bucks on silver, that's not a big deal to us. It's not as though silver's trading at $135 an ounce and gold's trading at $5,000 and now we're getting the wash down. In 2008, it was a bit different because in 2008, you had literally 8 years of the expectation of inflation and the rising stock market, and the gold price had gone from $250 to $1,000. Silver had gone from under $5 to $22 an ounce. Those are huge gains to work down after those on that initial pullback in the stock market.
Well, important to point out that, in fact, when that pullback occurred, the same variables were at play. We were talking about the same problems in the economy. The trigger event happened to be subprime back then. Now it seems in the short term as though the coronavirus is taking over the world. So, of course, people are upset and concerned because there is a lack of knowledge, there's a lack of understanding, there's misunderstanding. But no matter what the case is, Jeremy, it triggered an event which cannot be overlooked. And when these events happen, we look to history to give us some sort of guidance. And in 2008 and 9, yes, gold pulled back. Yes, silver pulled back. They were profitable
but
from very high
pullbacks.
jumps. That's
Those
right.
Those were massive pullbacks.
Right. The price of silver ventured up almost to $22 and back to $8.50.
Yeah.
Now, when that happened, it's a significant point to make. The correction in both of those metals over the next 36 months took gold to its all-time high
That's right.
of $1,920 per ounce from $650 an ounce, and took silver from $8.50 an ounce all the way to $49 an ounce. Hundreds and hundreds of percent higher.
We're going to stay on this topic for the next segment and for the show, but what it's giving you right now is getting out of the stock market. If you haven't already gotten into your position in precious metals, you're getting the buy opportunity today. That might be difficult to see if you're really frustrated with what's happening in the market, or maybe even panicked with what's happening in the market. But if you've been looking for that opportunity to finally get a toe into the precious metals market, it's not going to look much better than this. 1-877-78-SILVER is the number to call. Get a free package. That information is not an obligation for you to buy. It is an opportunity for you to be educated about what we offer, and when you're happy to come and see us, talk with us, sit down. The website, guildhallwealth.com. When we come back, more on gold and silver in the week that has been. You are tuned into The Real Money Show with Guildhall Wealth Management on Global News Radio, 640 Toronto. Welcome back to The Real Money Show with Guildhall Wealth Management. I'm your host, Darren. Along with me today, Jeremy Wiseman. As always, the both of us talking about physical gold and silver. The week that was a week filled with uncertainty, but if you're an investor in physical precious metals, that week was a bonus, so to speak. This has been fantastic. A lot of passion with our clientele right now about the situation they find themselves in. And Jeremy, by comparison, just to make certain people that are listening understand, the major indices have rolled back already to what is, for the most part, pricing that we saw last summer or earlier in 2019. Gold and silver, by comparison, although most things have a little bit of pullback, gold and silver just pulled back to where they were in December when the rally started. So some sold. It was very little in the way of comparison. Most bought. We are talking about people being able to be in a position to cost average. If you bought a little bit a while ago during February, maybe January, you're looking at it, it's an opportunity for you to cost average. Take it, because you don't get many of these opportunities. And that brings me to the next point, Jeremy. In terms of opportunity, the uniqueness of certain analysts is often found in the way they're able to approach this with pragmatism and say, smarten up, look at the facts,
Just keep it simple. And one such analyst is Jim Rickards. I love what he had to say this week. You brought some of that article with you.
Yeah, let's talk about let's get right into what Rickards was saying, because look, at the end of the day, gold and silver were holding out pretty well, and then all of a sudden, as of today, they're going down a little bit. So he wrote, here's the likely reason why gold is falling right now when it should be rising, right? This would be the question that people would be asking us if they were very new to the market, that's for sure.
Right.
With the stock market plummeting, hedge funds and other institutional investors have had to suddenly raise cash to meet margin calls on their positions in the equity markets. And they had to get that cash from somewhere. So that's an important thing to recognize, that this market that you're seeing, the pullback in the stock market, a lot of it is leveraged, right? Gold is a very liquid asset that can quickly be traded for cash. They can either sell the actual gold bullion, which we're not seeing here at Guildhall, or they can unload their positions in things like the gold ETF or GLD, things like that. So Rickards' estimate is that they dumped their gold positions to raise the money, and that's been driving the listed gold price lower. So remember, you have this dichotomy there between the paper price of gold and the physical market. As I mentioned just before we went on the show, Darren, we're actually seeing shortages in our RSPs. We're at this moment we do not have the 10-ounce Royal Canadian Mint bars, enough of them to support buyers in the market. So we have to use other LBMA approved products. I mean, that's a shortage, right? If you can't buy even 10 ounce bars of silver in the RSP, we have to sub out with different product. Rickards goes on to say it has nothing to do with gold's fundamentals, which are actually very strong. Demand is increasing, central banks are hoarding record amounts of gold, and new supplies are dwindling. That's a recipe for skyrocketing prices, and the bull market in gold is still very much intact. The latest selling is just a quirk of the market in which institutions have to raise cash in order to cover their positions when the market is dropping. Again, it has nothing to do with gold itself. This is just a temporary blip. If you haven't bought gold yet, this is an ideal opportunity to scoop up gold at bargain basement price. Or if you already own gold, to stock up on more.
And as we said, that's the beauty of cost averaging. You get a bonus. You already came into the market. Maybe you take a little bit more, find that dead horse. Maybe something's not working for you in your portfolio, and go with it from there. But again, Jeremy, it's important to point out and note, we've been here before. We've seen this happen. We know the mentality. We know the Jim Rickards of the world are the speakeasy voice that calms the people that are wondering, will gold and silver do what a stock market does? They won't.
And to be honest, I have not had a phone call yet like that. I haven't had anyone worried. So I'm not worried either. I'm just going to continue to buy on a regular basis. This type of small pullback in silver and gold does not concern me in the least. I know that this is a paper game, not the physical game. I haven't heard any stories about any central bank dishoarding a whole bunch of gold all of a sudden today. So this is all paper gold, which is the opportunity for us. This is a pure opportunity, Darren, for people who missed the window to get in gold really early. It's not going to get much better than this to get into gold and silver today. You can buy gold physically in a registered account. You can buy it directly over the counter, as we like to call it, where you just call us up. We can sell you the physical product direct to you,
order.
Or you can store it in our vault, which is held in Mississauga. It doesn't get easier than this. This is the time to hold it, and I think that this is a very rare opportunity to catch a dip.
Well, speaking of catching a very rare opportunity, something has changed over the last short while. When we come back, we're going to talk about maybe a slightly different mentality in the U.S. and what people are doing in the U.S. and why they might be thinking of storing their gold in Canada. It's a unique story. It's something we've discussed here, and look, we're going to talk about it when we come back. This is a show about physical gold and silver. If you're a listener, please call the number 1-877-8-SILVER or go to the website guildhallwealth.com. Get yourself the free investor package, learn more about it, or give us a call directly and just ask the questions. If you need the answers, we'll be here to hold your hand and take you through every step of the process. Gold, silver, combination of both, whatever you like as a buyer. More to come on The Real Money Show. When we come back, you are tuned in with Guildhall Wealth Management, and you're listening on Global News Radio 640 Toronto. Here we are back again with The Real Money Show. Thanks for staying tuned. And Jeremy, let's focus in now on where we go. This has been a fantastic week. Lots of opportunity in the market. For those that are buying now, what can they expect? If history repeats itself, are we seeing gold at all-time highs? I think so. I don't know what your opinion is. I think you also share that opinion.
Darren, we know that gold has no counterparty risk. There's no liability there. Only you own the gold. No one can do anything else with it if you own the gold. The smell test is if you can't hold it, you don't own it. So if you've got gold in an ETF or a certificate, it's not yours. You can't take delivery of it. That's a big issue. That means you're lumped in with the stock market in that respect. If you're going to own gold, you have to own the actual physical product, and that includes silver as well. Here's what's going to go forward, Darren. Interest rates are coming down. That means the monetary policy is going to be loose, fast and loose, and they're going to print money until they can't print a single dollar more. And the fact is that means trust is going to fly out the window. That means panic could continue to continue from here. I think they're going to have a tough time controlling it, to be honest. And now we're also seeing the yield curve inverting again, which means a recession.
The whole thing is inverted.
Which means the recession is going to be imminent at this point. So you need to prepare your portfolio if you haven't already diversified into gold and silver. Look, when governments lower interest rates, central banks lower interest rates, gold and silver go higher. So this is the time to own a finite asset that has zero counterparty risk. It is nobody else's liability. It is just yours. It is trust where there is no trust. And so if there was ever a time to have physical gold in your portfolio and silver specifically in your portfolio because of the opportunity with it, now is the time.
Well, as they say, Jeremy, enjoy it while it lasts, because these things never do. And there is too much that's working in favor of gold and silver right now. And if I was an investor and I was brand new to this and I was listening to a show like this, I do myself a favor. I call the number 1-877-78-SILVER or the website, guildhallwealth.com. I'd ask for some free information, whether you want it emailed to you, whether you want to spend 5 or 10 minutes or more talking directly with somebody who can answer your questions about ownership, about the types of product that we have. What best products do you have available? Is it bars, coins, both? That's the kind of answers that we can give. How to store that product. Is it easy to buy and sell? It is. It's completely liquid. It can be done on a phone call. When I go to sell it, what happens? Do I have to bring it in? All those answers can be given in a simple 5 or 10 minute phone call.
Yep.
And the best part about it is most people say, I never realized how easy this is.
Yep.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
And that's what gold and silver is meant to be. A simple way to protect and grow your wealth. And Jeremy, I'm excited because, as I mentioned earlier, there has been just a slight little shift, a ripple, if you will, in the vortex of comprehension about wealth. And it's brought, for the first time in a while, a couple of new callers from the U.S., and these are people that sought us out, web searches, if you will, organic searches, and they called looking for feedback on storage of their metal outside of the U.S. And this is an interesting conversation because, believe it or not, some people worry about these things of confiscation. They're not sure about what the future holds. And these are maybe extreme topics, but they're also saying to themselves, these people calling, I got to have my wealth in something that's going to protect it and grow it. And when you hear somebody say, I'm willing to bet the farm, literally a farmer called and said, I'm willing to bet the farm, and that's over $500,000 to put into some gold that's going to be stored in Mississauga. That's only 7 hours driving distance for me from Vermont. That's an interesting thing that kind of piques interest in what's happening in the mentality in the U.S. And for the first time in a long time, since 2008 and 2009, here we find ourselves again in that moment. And I think it's safe to say that based on what we've seen before, if you call 1-877-78-SILVER or you go to guildhallwealth.com, you will get a package of information about gold and silver, and you'll be as excited and get as passionate about this as us. Jeremy, in the last couple of minutes here of this segment, what do you think going forward would be a great way for a person to get started in this? An investor comes to you, says, I have 10, 20,000, maybe a bit more. What am I doing with that?
Well, it depends on what their needs are, where the funds are. If they're holding it, let's say in a mutual fund, in an RSP, we can help them transfer the funds over to our partner Questrade, and we can
easy to do.
Purchase the precious metals in that account. Maybe they've got it free cash on the side, and maybe the TFSA works for them. If they're brand new to it, maybe they're trying to convince a relative that or a spouse that they want to do more of this. Perfect way to do it would be to buy direct. Take it home, hold it in your hand, show it to your spouse, show it to the kids. This is real money. A great way to store wealth long term. And so that could be something, another approach to it. So there's lots of different ways. I think at Guildhall, what we want to do is really tailor the investment to the client's needs, what's going to work best for them. And but it is all physical. It's all physical, and it's all hold in your hand product.
Which is exciting. It's very exciting because people have this image in their heads of what it is they're going to hold on to when they get there. And so many people grab onto a 100-ounce silver bar and like, whoa, that's crazy. It's almost 7 pounds. And just staring at it, it's like, we take it for granted. We deal with it every day. But the reality is people are very excited once they see what they bought. They're holding it in their hands. And for the first time, maybe they're realizing this is and should have always been part of my wealth plan. So let's talk more about that when we come back. You are tuned into The Real Money Show with Guildhall Wealth Management. Don't forget, even though the deadline for RSP season has come and gone now, if you're listening to this show, really March the 2nd is the last day to do it. But you can still take what's in your portfolio and transfer existing funds if you are fed up with the stock market right now. If you don't want to hold your money there anymore, you can keep it in your RSP and add physical gold and silver with existing money. It's easy to do. Let us show you how at guildhallwealth.com or by calling the number 1-877-8-SILVER. We'll be right back. You are tuned into The Real Money Show with Guildhall Wealth Management on Global News Radio 640 Toronto. Welcome back to The Real Money Show. Jeremy, in the last segment, we were talking on the topic of building wealth and protecting wealth, and we ended with the registered accounts and saying, look, it's not too late. If you're in the stock market and you're not enjoying this volatility and you want out, you can still have precious metals in there. You can sell off your portfolio in your registered account, bring some over to Guildhall, put it into that new account. Doesn't trigger any tax events. It's very easy to do. But I think more importantly, let's just review a few of the ways that we can actually buy and own gold and silver and discuss that a little further. So there's registered accounts we just talked about. You can hold it in your RSP, your LIF, your RIF, if you're getting closer to retirement, TFSAs. You can do an RESP. Those are all the registered account types. Easy to do. We can handle all of those transactions. And the best thing about the registered accounts is for every 5,000 US you put in, we're going to give you 1 gram of gold absolutely free of charge up to a maximum of 10 grams.
Yeah, and so there's a couple different ways people are using the registered accounts, for example. So we've got people who have, looked at their mutual funds, unhappy with the gains, and transferred over to our partner with Questrade, and we help them do that. We walk them through the entire process and handle most of it for the client. And, for older clients, they're definitely buying more gold. And for larger clients, they're definitely buying mostly gold. They're putting maybe 20 to 30% into silver at this point. For younger precious metals owners, they're doing a little bit more on the silver side than the gold side, trying to take advantage and build that wealth towards the future. Outside the RSP, just a quick example, I had a client contact us, and they had a son that had an inheritance, a small inheritance of $30,000, and what's the best way to handle that? And we discussed in this example of putting half of it into the bank, getting a small interest on it. It's better than nothing, but instead of putting all of it into gold or silver, putting half of it into gold, and what does gold have to do to provide a gain over inflation, right? So, if half of those funds are diverted to physical gold, gold has averaged close to 10% a year. So it's done its job. And it's done its job for the entire portfolio, right? So the idea was, yes, you're going to take those 6-7 ounces of gold, put them in a safety deposit box, and hopefully your son never sells those, right? Hopefully he continues to build his wealth and build his gold portfolio, and that's just the beginning of it. Now, that's just one example of that's a very small client too. That's a small client. That's a starting out client. We've got clients from starting out with 1 single ounce to the largest. What about you, Darren? What kind of clients have you seen lately? Just an example of something you've helped a client with.
I will highlight one in particular, which is very important on any pullback. I generally will talk about the allocated financing accounts, because those, for me, when you are in the right position, you're at the right age, you're not risking retirement dollars per se, although every investment is a risk. We never, ever belittle that fact. There is a way to be safe while still using the concept of other people's money, and that is allocated financing, where you can get up to 80% of your purchase financed. In this particular example, a client came to us and they wanted $50,000 worth of silver. They looked at all the various options, buying it outright, putting it in storage, buying it, putting it in a TFSA, putting it in allocated financing, and they chose allocated financing. And the reason they chose allocated financing was they ended up getting 50,000 Canadian worth of Royal Canadian Mint silver product. Their outlay, however, was only $17,500. They get to control the 50,000. They get to buy and sell it as many times as they like. Might not be ever. It might be 30 times a year if they want to. And they get to do that within the confines of allocated financing while risking somebody else's money. So essentially, they have some debt, but they always held back that total 50,000 and could always move to a position where they take the product home or put it in storage, not using the financing. And that's the beauty of that.
That's a really good point. I mean, especially during this type of panic in the stock markets. I mean, yesterday the Toronto Stock Exchange shut down, where you could say, I'm going to all to cash. I know I should be buying some physical gold and silver here, but I don't want to feel like I'm putting any more money at risk. So an example of 50,000, let's say, you could say, okay, well, I'm going to put 15 of that, 20 of it into precious metals, financing it, and I get to hold back $30,000. So I'm not putting any additional cash at risk, but I am getting that physical gold in the portfolio.
18778-SILVER, guildhallwealth.com. Stay tuned. We're going to talk more about the various ways to buy gold and silver. And I think in the next segment, we'll talk about diamonds as well, and a little bit about product types. What are people buying? You are tuned into The Real Money Show with Guildhall Wealth Management on Global News Radio, 640 Toronto. Well, the week goes by so fast. The show goes by so fast. Here we are in the last segment, Jeremy. We've been talking about the week that was. We've been updating people about gold pricing, silver pricing, the opportunity that lies before them. And it's so super. I mean, like, this is the moment where if you're a buyer in gold and silver, you've been sitting on the fence, here's your opportunity. The window opened, and yes, we're having trouble keeping up with the orders. It's been a busy week. There's been a lot to do, big and small, short and tall. We've had them all this week. We've had registered accounts, allocated financing. We've had depository accounts. We've had e-store purchases a lot this week. And that's a significant thing to have to handle, but we're here. And that's the support that we give, the customer service second to none. And when you're adding gold and silver, there are a few other questions that people ask. And one of them is types of product. You know, this week, more than ever, because there was such a fluctuation in pricing and people going crazy, we got a lot of calls. A number of calls where, what about collectibles? And I've got coinage that's I got from my uncle that's, 1960s coins and stuff. I mean, set people straight on how we approach that.
Sure. So we only deal in bullion, which is the most economical way to get involved in the market. And we only deal with what's called LBMA approved product, which is globally recognized brands that could be sold anywhere around the globe. I had a client come in today, again, the client who was selling the 19 grams, but he also had these carat bars, which are grams, but they're kind of in a credit card packaging, right? I couldn't take them. We don't really deal in that product. If he brought any type of LBMA product to me, I would have been able to handle it, even if he didn't buy it direct from us. So it's important when you're buying physical precious metals that you get something that's globally recognized so you don't have an issue when you're trying to sell. We're always talking about the fact that it's such a liquid market, but it's not a liquid market if you're buying the wrong type of products. So that's why what we do is we keep it really simple. Go to the e-store, you'll see we don't have a major collection and selection of all different types of products. It's a pretty lean selection because that's the type of products that are globally recognized and you'll never have any issue selling.
So that means I can choose any of them and rest assured that knowing whether I buy it, take it home, put it in a storage account, put it in my registered account, I will not have an issue selling that product whatsoever.
Never.
And that happens by phone call. It's easy to do it. If you have the product in your possession, simply bringing it back to the office, and sure, we appreciate a phone call, let us know you're coming, and that produces a sell order, whether you're put on hold or whether you're standing in the office, and a check out to you as a client, which is the fastest way to do it. And I think that makes this one of the unique aspects of owning gold and silvers. A lot of people think, well, I don't know about gold and silver because if I get $50,000 worth of silver, who's going to buy it?
Right.
And it's not the truth. They are the most liquid markets in the world, far more liquid than the stock market.
And to that point, I notice I've been answering that question a lot, which is we work with a global wholesaler of physical precious metals. So when someone's selling product back to Guildhall, we have a choice. We can buy it back for our own inventory, or we can buy it back and sell it directly to our wholesaler. So we have a partner in this. We're not a small little coin shop where we have to wait for other buyers and sellers to come in, and we're not doing this through eBay. And this is something where we can always easily liquidate your product back to a wholesaler, and they love taking back product. So it's never an issue in that respect. So it's been a great week, Darren. Again, the fundamentals for the market are strong. Everything that we've talked about on this show looks like it's coming. We've talked about the overvaluations in the stock markets and the economy not looking good. What is the outlook for the stock markets? We knew it wasn't good. No one likes to know what the trigger was, but here we are. The stock market's falling, and precious metals are going to be the best safe haven out there. Physical safe havens.
The last time this happened, 2008 and 2009, before we end the show today, the prices of silver and gold, like all assets around the world, also experienced some fluctuation in pricing. They had reached major peaks. There was profit taking. But the exciting part of that is, Jeremy, if those that were listening paid attention, got in right now when the price is on the cheap, gold went up 195% in the next 36 months. Silver went up 480% in the next 36 months.
Yeah.
That is opportunity. Those do not come along very often. For you, the listener, do you want insurance for your portfolio? Do you want to grow your wealth? If the answer is yes to either of those, call the number 1-877-8-SILVER or go to the website guildhallwealth.com. Free information, it's packaged, it's put together for you. You can call us and speak with us directly, and you can ask questions about all of the accounts we've discussed today. We want to thank you for being tuned in to The Real Money Show with Guildhall Wealth Management.